Hello, flower friends. There are so many ways to make money as a florist, but figuring out which avenue to pursue can be really challenging. In today's video, I'm going to break down 9 revenue streams for florists and help you figure out which one is right for you. My name's Ellen Frost. I'm building a community of flower nerds online at Flowermore. You can check it out on my website, ellenfrost.com. Also, subscribe to Flower Nerd, my free weekly newsletter for flower people. All right, so let's get into it. There are so many ways to make money as a florist, and each revenue stream has pros and cons. That's what we're going to talk about today. And finding the right revenue stream for you really means understanding your goals, your strengths and weaknesses, the schedule that you want to have. I know that sounds crazy, but like, what do you want your daily, weekly, monthly, yearly schedule to look like? And then, honestly, your capacity for physical labor. I'm just being real. A lot of these are very physically intense, and you're going to have to figure out how physical you are able to be and you want to be. Also, every market is different. So each geographic market is different. And you're going to have to figure out what revenue stream best fits your market, your specific market. So these are all of the ways to earn revenue that we're going to talk about tonight, including online retailing, brick and mortar shops, funerals, weddings, subscriptions, corporate events, teaching, mobile and pop up sales, and corporate accounts. I'm sure there are more, like being an influencer or other creative things, but these 9 are tried and true ways for florists to make money. So I'm going to go through each revenue stream and I'm going to use these criteria to evaluate how good an opportunity it is. So, what is the opportunity? What are the barriers to entry? How stressful is it? Because stress can have a huge impact on our work. Predictability, and then how profitable are each of these revenue streams? So, our first one is online retail. So, online retail, you can imagine, is creating a virtual store. So, selling flowers online in some way, either from your own website or creating a shopping cart or some sort of online store where customers can order flowers 24/7, 365 days a year. It's super easy and convenient for them. It can be easy and convenient for you, but not necessarily. But online retail, we all order things online. We all understand what online retail, how it works. So when we're looking at online retail, the opportunities are huge. We are all in a world of online ordering and buying, and that is becoming the way that most people purchase almost everything. So there's very high opportunity. There's also really low barrier to entry. You can put together a Shopify site or even just a basic website that allows you to take orders. So the barrier to entry is really low. You don't have to prove that you're a florist. You don't have to have any special technical skills. So the stress level for retail, I would say, is medium because of the thing that comes next, which is the low predictability. You can never tell when orders are going to come in. So it can be stressful to be always on edge, waiting for orders to come in, not knowing when they're going to come in. And honestly, having to jump when there are orders. I have a friend who has an online retail business, and she actually delivers through DoorDash. And again, the predictability is very low. She doesn't know when those orders are going to come in. So anytime she gets like a ding on her phone saying that there's an order, she has a limited amount of time to get that order made and out the door. So it can be a little interruptive to your life or to other things that you're doing. Profitability, I think, is probably, in the medium range. There are probably good margins for these kind of orders, but the delivery, there is a lot of money involved in delivery. If you're hiring somebody to like DoorDash, you're going to have to pay them, uh, some cut could be, 20 or 30%. Also, if you're doing the deliveries yourself, that can also add to the stress. So, online retail can work. It can be a good fit for somebody who wants to have work at home, have a shop at home, design at home, do deliveries. In that way, I think it could be a good fit for somebody like that. So the next is brick and mortar. Brick and mortar means having a physical location, like a store, and you have designated open hours for shopping. Of course, you need some kind of staffing, whether that's you or you're paying staff. And the space is either rented or you own it. So a brick and mortar shop is what we would traditionally think of as like a traditional flower shop. So there is the opportunity for retail brick and mortar shops is honestly decreasing. There is less and less interest in shopping in person at a brick and mortar, even for flowers, which seem like a thing that you would want to buy in person. There's less interest in that, partially because of the thing we just talked about, which is online retail. Online retail makes it very easy for people. So people are used to that and they're not as into driving to a brick and mortar shop and purchasing in that way. So the opportunity is not that high. And the barrier to entry is very high because finding a space that fits, you know, what you are looking for can be really difficult. It can also be really expensive. So if you're renting, the rent can be expensive. If you're buying a space, mortgage can be very expensive. So the barrier to entry is pretty high. The stress level for this can also be high. One, because the barriers to entry are high. You have a lot of overhead. So you're paying rent, utilities, you have to pay staff. And then you really, because the predictability is sort of medium, you're not really sure when those orders are going to come in. A lot of brick and mortar shops do have regular customers that come in on a regular basis. So there is a little bit more predictability than you would have at an online retailer, but predictability is still, low to medium. And then profitability, I think, is pretty low. There is not as much opportunity for high margins in brick and mortar because you have such high overhead. So, brick and mortar can work, but it often has to be paired with some of these other revenue streams that we're going to talk about. So, next is funerals, and funerals may be one of the revenue streams you pair with a brick and mortar. So, funerals are focusing on providing florals for funerals, end of life ceremonies, celebration of life ceremonies, and generally you're working directly with a funeral home. You're not working with the family, you're working directly as a referral from the funeral home. This is a really specialized service. This is very specialized design, and you generally have a short lead time. So, unlike a wedding where you would have 6 months, a year, sometimes even 2 years, uh, funerals you have, at most maybe a week, sometimes more if you're doing end of life memorials or celebrations after, sometime after the person has passed away. But you usually have a short lead time, maybe a week to a few days. There is sort of a medium opportunity level. So, flowers for funerals is still a thing. People still are in need of flowers for funerals and end of life ceremonies. However, the barrier to entry is so high. And I say that because for funeral work, funeral homes have florists that they work with. So they have their go to people. And it's really hard to become one of those go to people. I have in my Flower More community, I have a couple of members who have been trying to break into the funeral business for a few months now. They've had meetings with funeral directors, they've showed them samples, but it is hard because those funeral homes have established relationships with florists. So the barrier to entry is pretty high. Stress level, I put it medium because obviously, whenever you are doing design for something very important in a family's life, something this personal, there is a level of stress that goes along with that. However, it's less stressful than, say, a wedding because there are only a few types of designs that you're creating for these events. And if you have experience with them and you get good at them, the creating the designs is not the stressful part. It's just making sure that you are living up to the expectations of the funeral home, the funeral director, and the family. The predictability, again, low. You're never really sure when these orders are going to come in unless you're a huge florist whose main work is funeral work. So we have a grower, farmer florist partner, Hendrix Flowers, and their main source of revenue is funerals. They do several funerals a week. They are in with those funeral directors. They have those established relationships. So they know that they're going to get one or two funerals from each of these funeral homes every week. For them, it's more predictable. But on a smaller scale, you may not have that ability to have that predictability. And profitability, I think, is medium, could be medium to high, because I think you can charge a premium for these products. And if you run your numbers correctly, you can, I think, produce pretty good margins on these flowers. Weddings. Now, this is where I started out. This is where I have made most of my money. My revenue has come mostly from weddings over the last 18 years I've been in business. So, weddings are creating floral products, services, installations for weddings and receptions. Uh, this kind of work is highly varied. Even if you specialize in small weddings, elopements, big weddings, installations. It's highly varied. Every customer is different. Every wedding that you do is going to demand a different level of expertise, creativity. Uh, Weddings can be a lot of fun. I love doing weddings. I have done them for many, many years. However, they can be stressful. So, opportunity very high. Everybody gets married still, even in times of recession, even in times of hardship, even during COVID, people still get married. So, the opportunity for wedding work is very high. The barriers to entry, I would say, are medium, almost even medium to low. You can establish yourself as a wedding florist pretty easily. Put up a website, put up an Instagram, start talking to people and telling people that you're doing weddings. You don't need any special certification or anything to show that you're a wedding florist. And so the barrier to entry is really just proving that you can do the work. So having a portfolio, having some photos, that's how you sort of get started. Stress levels for weddings can be high. So if you're a person who likes, high stress situations, you handle those well, you get excited for that kind of work, weddings might be a great fit for you. For those people who don't like stress, don't like uh, very close customer contact, high expectations, this may not be a good fit. Predictability, I think medium to high, in that if you are a wedding florist, you can count on having a regular flow of wedding customers. Like I said, there's always people getting married. So, and profitability is high. This is one of the places where you can really charge a premium for flowers because there's so much that goes into it. And if you establish yourself as a trusted vendor who does great work, you can charge for your work. So there is high profitability there. One thing I'll just mention here about the schedule. All of these revenue streams have or many of them have flexible schedules. Weddings are almost primarily on the weekends. So You have to be the kind of person who wants to spend most of your weekends working. It can be challenging for family dynamics, for friend dynamics. I have had those challenges over the years. If you are specifically doing weddings and you want to do a lot of weddings, you are going to have to work weekends. So that is something to consider. Subscriptions. I love subscriptions because I feel like they hit a sweet spot for flower work. So subscriptions are creating arrangements for regularly scheduled recurring orders. So that can either be people picking up from you, like a CSA or a subscription, or a delivery. And that can be deliveries to residential offices or residences or offices. It is just a regular order. That's the key, is that it's either weekly, bi-weekly, monthly. There's a regular schedule so that you have consistent recurring income that you can count on. High opportunity for subscriptions. Ever since COVID, people have been embracing subscriptions. People love to just get a subscription, pay for it, and let it run. People do that with their TV stations, they do it with food delivery, they do it with all kinds of things. And flowers are no different. So there is a lot of opportunity. Again, the barrier to entry is low. You don't need any special skills. You can, all during COVID for 3 years, we did subscriptions of just bucket flowers. So just loose flowers in a bucket. There was really hardly any skill to that except choosing a color palette and choosing a good mix of flowers, but there wasn't a lot of design. Or you can make flower bouquets or flower vase arrangements, but the barrier to entry is pretty low. The stress level is generally low too, because these are customers that you're going to be working with on a regular basis, whether that's weekly, biweekly, monthly. They know you, you know them. And if ever there is a problem, a lot of these folks are going to reach out, honestly, in a really respectful, relational way to let you know there's a problem. So stress levels low, predictability high. You know, every week I have these 5 orders. I'm going to do them every week. So predictability, that is what a subscription is. It's predictable. And then the profitability is pretty high. So you can charge a premium for this service, this product and service. So for me, subscriptions are sort of the sweet spot for a lot of people to enter into floristry. Then there's corporate events. I love corporate events. Corporate events are so good for so many reasons. So, corporate events are creating floral arrangements for businesses, schools, or other organizations that are having special events. And these are usually large events, and the arrangements are usually pretty uniform. So, like a dinner for 200 people with 20 tables, all 20 centerpieces are the same. There is a lot of opportunity for recurring orders. So that means like we have lots of events that happen every year. So a school has an opening of the year celebration or an end of the year celebration with graduation. So we know that those are going to happen every year. So there is some predictability there. Opportunity, I say medium. There is opportunity there, and depending on your market, there may be more. Like if you're in a place where there's a lot of colleges or a lot of private schools or a lot of businesses, there may be more opportunity, but there is opportunity. However, the barriers to entry are pretty high. And this goes back to something similar to funeral work, in that you kind of have to know somebody to get in for this kind of work. Almost all of the relationships that we have had for corporate work are because we had a relationship with somebody in the organization, or a friend of a friend, or a friend of a customer, somebody like that. We have tried in my business to cold call businesses to try to get this kind of work. Even cold calling businesses that we had relationships with, like my alma mater, my husband's alma mater, my designer's alma maters. And that really did not work. We did not have really any success in breaking through that barrier. The stress level for a corporate event is really low. Honestly, it's probably one of the easiest jobs because a lot of corporate people just have flowers as something they need to check off their list. So, 25 centerpieces, yellow and white. I don't really care what they look like. And for us, that's great because we can use whatever we have available to us in that color palette. Stress is pretty low. And also, when you deliver, there is not a lot of sort of nitpicking or the kind of scrutiny that you would have at something like a wedding. Much less stress. Predictability, medium. Like I said, there are some opportunities for annual work, but sometimes there's just like random places that are having a one off event that you might get. Profitability in this way is high profitability because most corporate people that are having events have um, budgets that will work for them. And so profitability pretty high. Then there's teaching, another thing that I love. That's just imparting floral knowledge to students, either online or in person. Uh, there's a lot of opportunity for floral teaching. People really love um, experiences these days. People really want to pay for experiences. So the opportunity to teach is very high. Barrier to entry, I would say, is medium. You don't need a lot of expertise. I think you only need to know a little bit more than the people you're teaching to really teach a good class. So the barrier to entry, not insurmountable. Stress is low. Usually people love these events. They love learning about flowers, having their hands on flowers. It is one of the most joyful parts of floristry and one of the most rewarding revenue streams that you can pursue. Predictability, I would say medium. There are things that you like for my shop, we have classes that we do every year, like Thanksgiving centerpiece class, Christmas centerpiece class, Valentine's Day. Like there are things that are predictable. And then there are also things that just get thrown in the mix of the schedule when we have time, when we're able. So also, it just depends on where you are, what the market is for your people when they're available. Like for us, summer is really bad for classes because most people leave the city. But then I have friends who live in resort towns where summer is a great time to offer classes. Profitability, I would say, is medium. I think because prices of flowers are increasing and we're not necessarily able to increase the cost of a class by as much as we might want to. So the profitability, the margins, I think for classes are, sort of medium. Then there are sort of pop-up on the road sales. So this is selling your floral products at an external venue. So this would be like doing partnerships, pop-ups, bringing your business to the customer in some way. I think the opportunity for this kind of work is high because there are so many places, breweries, coffee shops, all kinds of places that would love to have an additional draw at their location. So, it's like if a brewery has a food truck, that's an additional draw. If they have a flower truck, that's an additional draw. So, there is a lot of opportunity for partnership. Barrier to entry is low. Again, you don't need any special skills. Stress is medium. I think, working hand in hand with other vendors can potentially be stressful. But if you have good working relationships with your people, I don't think there's a lot of stress. Predictability, medium. There is a lot of opportunity. So it kind of depends on how much you want to push this. How many events like this do you want to have on the regular? And then profitability is medium because even if you're charging and you have good margins, in a lot of these cases, you may have to pay something to the venue. Like if you are part of a holiday pop-up where there's a lot of vendors, you might have to pay an entry fee or you might have to pay a portion of your sales. So you may not be as it may not be as profitable as some of the other revenue streams. Then there's corporate accounts. And this is one I will say I have not really pursued myself. And I'll tell you why. So, corporate accounts are when you, as a florist, contract with like a hotel or uh, restaurant or a corporation to do weekly or biweekly or daily installations and showpieces in their lobbies or in their on their front desk, or in the picture here, this is the Met Museum. Uh, these kind of jobs, the opportunity is really low. I mean, if you are working with a local restaurant, there's probably some opportunity, but these are these are much bigger jobs I'm talking about, like getting the flowers in the lobby of the Four Seasons, something like that. You have to be, the barriers to entry are so high for this kind of work. You have to prove yourself as an exclusive florist who has the capability of doing this work, but also refreshing it daily or every other day. You have to have a team. You have to have the right attitude. You have to have the right customer service skills. So the opportunity is low. The barriers to entry are high, stress high. These floral arrangements are the brand's exterior. This is many times the first thing that people see at a hotel or a corporate office or a restaurant when they walk in. Picture walking into the Plaza Hotel. It was just in New York recently. When you walk in the Plaza Hotel, the first thing you see are these giant floral arrangements in the lobby. So, in order to be able to really execute this, I think there is a lot of stress. Predictability is high. These are jobs where you get a contract for a year or multiple years. So predictability is not an issue. Profitability, maybe medium to high. Again, these are places that have money and have the ability to pay you. However, it's so hard to get these jobs. I have done work in restaurants, small restaurants, local restaurants, also small businesses and local businesses, but nothing on the scale of a, 5-star hotel or a Michelin star restaurant. Those are jobs that are very hard to get, very high stress, and really just difficult to execute. So now that we've talked about those 9 streams of income, I'm curious what revenue streams you think are best for you, given all of the criteria that we talked about. I would love to hear from you. If you can leave a note in the comments about which revenue streams you've tried, which you would like to try, and any questions that you might have about how these revenue streams might work. And if you liked this video, I hope you will come back and watch more. Subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can get more videos like this. And be sure to check the link in my profile to subscribe to my free weekly newsletter, Flower Nerd.